everybody, and thank you for purchasing my Fraggle-inspired foam puppet head pattern. This pattern includes the foam head pattern, the mouth plate pattern, and the fabric pattern for the whole head. If we open up this pattern, we'll find a full list of all the supplies you'll need with some other little tips, as well as the mouth plate pattern, the fabric mouth plate pattern, the tongue pattern, and the back of the mouth pattern. In the next 2 pages, you'll find the pattern for the foam of the head and for the fabric for the head. I try labeling things as best as I can, so hopefully that helps. And in the last page, you'll find our instructions. So let's start with step number 1. Trace the foam head pattern on 1/2 inch upholstery foam. Of course, first you gotta cut the pattern out of the paper. When you trace it, make sure that you see where that little line is right there, that you trace on the foam that as well. Also, after you trace it this way, flip it around and trace it that way as well. Now we get to step 2 where it says to cut it out. Now when cutting foam, it's very easy to start turning your scissors when you're cutting, so you end up cutting like this. And what that does is it causes the cut to come out at an angle. What you really want is to hold the scissors perpendicular to your foam when you cut it. That way you make sure that it comes out nice and straight. So now with both of them cut out, I'm going to get some contact cement and I'm going to glue down this side, but not the mouth. Make sure you don't glue closed the mouth. When using contact cement, it's very important that you have a respirator mask on as well as having good ventilation. That's why I have this fan that shoots air to the outside. And now after gluing these little parts up, I'm going to get them and start gluing them together all the way around like this. Make sure you glue all the way from this side, all the way to the little line is right there. And from the bottom right here, all the way here. Make sure you don't glue where the mouth is, and make sure you don't glue right here where your hand's supposed to go. And after gluing together, here's how it looks. And if you don't have access to contact cement, you can always just use some hot glue and it turns out pretty much the same. Here they are side by side, and in the end, the main difference is the durability. This one made with the glue is a bit more durable than the hot glue. But when you use hot glue, you don't have to worry about all those toxic fumes you get from the contact cement. The next thing you do is cut out your mouth plate pattern. Then you'd want to trace and cut this out of some red gasket material, which sadly I'm completely out of. So for this one, I'm going to be using some EVA foam. And for the hot glue one, I'll be using some of this old table mat. Now since I am using a thin piece of EVA foam instead of the red rubber gasket, I'm going to be putting a layer of fabric on there just to help make sure that it stays together a little better. It's especially going to help right here where the mouth is going to be creasing a lot since you don't want that to break. And I'll do the same thing to this one as well. And now I can glue these into the head. I like to start by gluing in the corners first, and then I glue the rest around the mouth. And after gluing in the mouth plate, either with hot glue or with the contact cement, here's what you got. And as you can see, you really have a lot of control of how you can move the mouth. You can move the thumb around, do funny faces, all that kind of fun stuff. Either way, let's put these aside and start working on the fabric. Now for a professional puppet like this, you usually want to use something that's nice, like this F3 fleece. Side by side, you can see this one's really fuzzy compared to this one that's not as fuzzy. But in the end, both of them will do just fine. So let's cut out our pattern. So with our pattern cut out, I'm going to trace it out on my nice fleece. If you look at this arrow right here, it says to make sure that the fleece stretches this way, meaning that when I trace it out, it's supposed to stretch this way. Now you could trace it like this and then flip it around and trace it the other way somewhere else. Or after you trace it out this way, you can flip it on this axis right here and then trace it out again that way. That way you don't have to sew this part right here. And now I'll cut this out with my X-Acto knife. And after cutting it out, I'll fold it on that line right there. And I'm going to hand sew all the way around right here in the front, right here in the back, and right here on the bottom. Make sure you do not sew the mouth closed or the back where your hand's supposed to go. So to sew this up, all you need to do is the basic whip stitch. You also got to make sure that you get all these little fuzzy bits and stick them inside before you stick the needle all the way through like that. And after sewing it together, here's how it looks. Now you're probably wondering if you can machine sew it, and the answer to that is... And to demonstrate that, I'm going to use some of this fleece I bought at Joann's a while back. But most any fabric will do. For example, this little jacket right here got turned into this little guy right here. As you can see, there is a big distinct difference of fuzziness between the two, but it should work out just fine anyway. So after tracing out the fabric, I can just fold it in half right here on this line. Then I can just run this through the sewing machine. Again, only sewing the front, the back, and the bottom, not the mouth and the armhole. Now machine sewing is not going to hide the seam as well as hand sewing, but this took me about an hour to hand sew, and this took me about 2 minutes to sew with machine. So now I can cut off some of this extra fabric right here going around there. And there you go. Now to work on the fabric for the mouth. And now I'll trace and cut this out of this red suede. Oh, well, I guess it's more of a salmon color, but close enough. And now I'll sew this into the head. Now you can't sew the mouth plate in there, just make sure you put a seam allowance, and make sure you know what you're doing, because I don't know how to sew mouth plates into puppets. Well, at least by machine. This fleece is pretty stretchy though, so it should be pretty forgiving when it comes to putting it on the head. Speaking of which, that is our next step. So I'll get my mouth plate fabric and I'm going to glue it directly onto the mouth plate right here. And after gluing the mouth fabric onto the mouth plate, with contact cement and hot glue respectfully, I can now flip these over the heads to see how they look. As a reminder, this looks a little weird. That's because I use a machine to sew the mouth plate in when I don't know how to do that right. So the hot glue one, there was a bit of weird crease here because of the way I sewed it in there, but I was able to fix it by just putting some hot glue in there and just holding it down until it dried. And here they are, put nicely together. And here you can really see the difference between using a nice F3 fleece or using just a regular store-bought fleece. Both of them work fine, but with the F3 fleece, you can see that the seam is a lot more invisible compared to the really thick one right here. And even after trying to pick the seam out a bit, you can still see it a lot more clearly. Now it also included a pattern for the back of the mouth and for the tongue, so let's get those made as well. Now after cutting out the patterns out of their respective material, you may notice that I did not make a black fleece back of the mouth. And that's just to show you guys, if you don't want to do that, you can always just use a Sharpie. So now I'm going to glue on my pieces, use my appropriate Sharpies, and then show you how it looks. And after gluing the inside of the mouth, and of course drawing the inside of the mouth, here's how they look. And they still look pretty cool, they still have the flexibility, and they work really well. So this is as far as the patterns will take you. The rest of it is up to you. How do you want to design your puppets? You can take a couple of ping pong balls and glue these on. And then after gluing them on, you can draw some nice pupils on here. And it'll look something like this. Hi there, friendo. It's nice to see you. And you can give them hair or maybe put a hat on them. Oh, I think I look very pretty with this, don't you think? Or if you don't want the eyes to be Fraggle eyes like this, you can always be creative and just place the eyes where you want to. Whether you have it right here, or maybe you can put them like right here on the side. They look like that. That's kind of a full, fun design. Even right here on the cheeks. That's kind of fun. Or maybe just like a cool green alien with one eye. Hello, I am the alien with one eye. What's over there? What's over there? I must find it all. I must find it all. Yes. Hey there, what's going on? You can add some hair on there. Or you can even glue on some teeth like this and have some fun with that. Either way, be creative, be silly, have fun. But as always, don't forget to stay creative. Bye, everybody. Have yourself a wonderful day. And again, thank you for purchasing my pattern.